But what if Netflix doesn't have lawyers? Maybe then they'll see our lawsuit and then surrender, right? Maybe that's what they were thinking when they started this whole thing. Anyway, I'm Andrei Mincov, the founder of Trademark Factory, and in this video I'm going to share my thoughts about yet another trademarking screw-up. This time around, it's Netflix being sued for trademark infringement over a phrase, choose your own adventure. And they're also being sued for using rounded borders on books. But let me start by reading from the article, and you can find the link in the description below. Netflix chooses to seek dismissal of Black Mirror Bandersnatch trademark suit. Okay, let's see what they've got. So Netflix has hit back at a lawsuit from the publisher of the popular Choose Your Own Adventure kids book series, which sued the streaming giant over what it claims are similarities found in Netflix's Black Mirror standalone interactive movie, Bandersnatch. So again, if you thought that Netflix wouldn't have the lawyers to respond to your lawsuit, maybe that was a little bit naive. So apparently Netflix has lawyers, or can hire outside lawyers who would be happy to write a lot of words on a piece of paper to respond to your lawsuit. And that's exactly what happened here. So let's go through the article. The original civil suit filed in Federal District Court in Vermont, home to the publisher Choose Co., says Black Mirror Bandersnatch infringed on its trademark. In the film, the protagonist, a young programmer named Stefan, works to create a computer game inspired by a Choose Your Own Adventure style novel given to him as a child. Hang on a second. So the publisher owns Choose Your Own Adventure trademark for books. Okay. In the movie, a guy builds a game because he's inspired by a Choose Your Adventure book. That's their argument for trademark infringement. Okay, let's keep reading. The suit also claimed unfair competition, false designation of origin, and dilution arising under the Trademark Act, and unfair competition. Well, of course. Choose Co., which has since filed an amended complaint, says it has registered the use of the phrase in connection with movies, books, and other types of media. 20th Century Fox currently holds an option to develop a film based on the books. The publisher also claims the game company depicted in the movie Tuckersoft uses rounded color borders on its packaging that is similar to borders it uses on its book covers. Okay, so the company makes books, the publisher makes books. They're all Choose Your Own Adventure books. They print books, and their books have covers. And on their covers, they have rounded borders. And the imaginary software company that an actor in the movie plays to be a founder of. So that company also, that software company, the imaginary software company, they have software that also uses rounded color. Wow. Okay. Netflix, in a filing Thursday, pushed back on both claims in a memorandum of law in support of a motion to dismiss. So they want to throw out the lawsuit, saying the use of the phrase choose your own adventure is a reference to the book's narrative device and is a common and accurate phrase. Yep, makes sense. The filing added that the rounded borders claim is even weaker than Chusco's original claims because there is nothing distinctive about Chusco's borders and consumers do not associate them with Chusco. They are not protectable trade dress, and regardless, its borders are markedly different from those used in Tuckersoft video games. For those reasons laid out, Netflix asked for the case to be dismissed with prejudice. Makes sense. They say, no amount of further amendment will change Bandersnatch's actual uses of the phrase choose your own adventure. The filing concludes, nor will amendment change the fictional Tuckersoft company uses of the rounded color borders, let alone make them similar to Chusco's. Nor will amendment alter the First Amendment protection for such artistic uses. The protection for descriptive, fair uses like the use of the challenged phrase or the absence of any secondary meaning for the rounded collar borders element of Chusco's trade dress. Alright, so Netflix's lawyers were pretty pissed when they were drafting that. They were like, oh, come on, do we really have to deal with this nonsense? And you could get that feeling by reading their 30-page response. So in this article, there's actually a link to the PDF, and you can read through that. It's lots of fun. But let me just quickly walk you through this. So this little table of contents, they say, what they are is a movie, and the original complaint challenged only a brief snippet of dialogue. So it's a dialogue in which protagonist describes the fictitious book on which his video game is based. So fictitious protagonist describes fictitious book on which his fictitious video game is based to be released by a fictitious video game company. Okay, okay. Chusco alleged that by using this common and accurate phrase to describe the narrative structure of the Bandersnatch book, defendant infringed Chusco's trademark rights. And then they talk about the borders, and they say that none of this is actionable at law. And so they go through different reasons. I'm sure you could get a lot of fun by just reading through this. I'm just going to call out some snippets that I think are interesting. So they say Chusco registered a trademark for the wordmark choose your own adventure. Although the series was widely read in the 80s and 90s, and Chusco claims that its marketing strategy uses the hook of nostalgia to interest adults who read the books when they were young in buying the books for their children. Chusco's mark was not registered until 2004. Chusco asserts that in addition to its books, it uses its mark for a board game and an e-commerce website, and has granted an option contract to Fox to develop an in-theater interactive films based on the books. But here's what Netflix says about themselves. They say, Netflix's streaming library includes 4 seasons of Black Mirror, a speculative fiction anthology series that examines the relationship between humans and technology. Black Mirror Bandersnatch is an interactive film in the Black Mirror anthology and was released on Netflix's streaming platforms in December of 2018. Unlike a traditional film, Bandersnatch viewers make choices to determine the plot and ending of the film. By clicking a button at the bottom of their screen, using a mouse or other controller. The version of the film that the viewer sees depends on the choices the viewer makes. Okay. Bandersnatch chronicles the efforts of a young programmer named Stephen Butler to develop a video game for the fictitious video game company, Tuckersoft. His game is based on a fictional book titled Bandersnatch by a fictional author named Jerome Davies. Okay, so Netflix says that trademarks don't protect ideas, only marks associated with goods and services. Very true. It's not about what your product does. It's not about how it does it. It's not what makes your product great. Trademarks are about the brand, how your goods and services are identified in a way that they let the market tell your product and services apart from everyone else's products and services. They may be exactly the same as yours. And so Netflix continues, the idea of a narrative storytelling device in which readers or viewers make their own choices is not protected by trademark law. So the phrase may be protected, but not the idea. Netflix says instead, Chusco alleges that Stefan's passing reference to the fictitious Bandersnatch book as a choose your own adventure book and Netflix's use of rounded color borders in connection with the fictitious Tuckersoft video games infringe its trademark and trade dress rights. But these alleged uses do not infringe on interests protected by trademark law. Bandersnatch did not use either the phrase choose your own adventure or rounded borders to identify Netflix's product in the marketplace or to denote its source. The phrase choose your own adventure is used solely to describe a fictitious book by an imaginary author within an entertainment program that otherwise clearly identifies Netflix as its source and the source of the streaming service that customers actually purchase. The rounded color borders are likewise used solely as part of the artwork for fictitious video games sold by a fictional software company, not to mislead the public into believing that Chusco is behind the fictional software company or by extension the Bandersnatch film or Netflix service that streams it. It makes perfect sense. If a guy in your movie says something, it doesn't mean that they're competing with a company, right? And so on and on and on. And they're claiming First Amendment right, basically saying, how can we create a movie without mentioning anything, right? And it's very true. It's very true because if you're simply just mentioning somebody else's brand without trying to create the perception that you are them or that you're authorized by them or that you're endorsed by them or that you have a connection with them, if you do none of those things, then you can mention their brands. And just think about it. If you had to create a movie that doesn't show anything that you could come up with an idea, that's the brand they use, right? You can't have any store shelves, you can't have any cars, you can't have any planes, you can't have nothing. But pretty much every single item that we see, whether it's in the house or whether it's in the street or whatever, it's all branded because all those products have been made by somebody. And typically, businesses that make something and put it out to the world, they want to protect their brand, right? So the whole idea that simply including a vision, maybe an image or a mention of a brand results in you being a trademark infringer is just ludicrous. And that's exactly what Netflix is saying. So that's the First Amendment. They also claim that it's statistically relevant, not misleading. So just read this whole thing. It's fairly interesting read. They say it's descriptive fair use. Yeah, exactly. So they say we don't refer to your particular book. We say we refer to it as the whole idea behind books like that, when readers can decide what's going to happen to the hero. Okay, and same way they say that there's no way they can prove. They say, okay, so basically they say, because Chusco has failed to plead any plausible theory of consumer confusion, and because the use is obviously descriptive, there is no need for the court to analyze each of the Polaroid factors to determine whether the film confused viewers as to the source of association with Chusco. Even if the court were to do so, application of those factors confirms the complete absence of likely consumer confusion in this case. Yeah, so you can finish reading the document, but really, trademark infringement boils down to one thing: likelihood of confusion. If your products come from a completely different source from those of somebody who's got a trademark, then the question that's asked is, will a regular average consumer with average intelligence, when exposed to both these trademarks, have an idea that they might come from the same source? They come from the same place, or maybe one is authorized by the other. If any of that is a possibility, then you may have a case of trademark infringement. But if there's no way anybody would ever think that your products come from the same source as this other guy, there is no likelihood of confusion. When there's no likelihood of confusion, there is no trademark infringement. So there. If you found this interesting or useful, subscribe now, get notified whenever the next one goes live. And if you got a brand that you want to protect, whether you're going to end up sending stupid letters to big names just hoping that they're going to pay you off, or you're actually genuinely interested in protecting your brand, book a call with our strategy advisors. And by the way, we're very picky about who we choose to work for. If what you're trying to do is just abuse the system, we're not interested in having you as a client. If all you're interested in is staying small and really not even daring to think of possible success of your business, probably we're not a great fit either. But if you are passionate about your products and services, if you know that you came up with a brand that's going to be worth something as you build your company, then you got to protect your brand. You got to protect your brand right now. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.